13th in the championship. The takeover happened as I said it would. People will be. Oh, when have we got Leeds? Now then, people, welcome back to the Just Joe Football Show. Sorry, I was looking off to the side because someone's just said Evie was putting on a 40 bag. Birthday today.
No, and it's certainly not my 40th birthday.
Where's that come from then? I'm going to dig him out just in here. What's he saying?
It's because I can't even remember. It was earlier on when we were talking on the presser that he said that I was 40. He said I was old or something. It's something about my age, and so
you're 21 still, are you?
Yeah, with just a little bit of VAT on top of that.
Great stuff. You're out of order, Justin. You're out of order. you made me think, oh no, I didn't know it was a birthday. We're gonna have to sing a happy birthday, but it's not anyway, so it doesn't matter. Evie, how are you? Yeah,
I'm good. I'm thinking about getting some kind of like nips and tucks now. Justin's given me a complex, but yeah, other than that, exactly, something like that, or sticky tape at the back of my head so it pulls it all back or something. So, but yeah, other than that, I'm great, thanks.
Good. Jay, I haven't seen you, well, I have seen you, but we haven't had you on here for a while. How are you doing, brother? I miss you, and I'm glad you're back. I'm serious. I'm being serious.
I'm not laughing at that. I'm not laughing at that.
Okay.
It's just all very funny. I'm all right, mate. Yeah, I'm good. Long week, but nearly over. Nearly at the Christmas break. So been doing house stuff. I get my back garden dug up and astroturf down. So I've been binning stuff and skips of things this week, getting ready for it. So very
this
grown.
Time of year? Why this time of year? Why have you waited till now?
I'm an idiot, mostly. I wanted to get it done. I've been trying to remortgage my house since the middle of the year, and the bank have just been messing about, and it's just limped. So I had guys booked months ago to do stuff, and I had to delay it today. And then the garden guy can do it next week, and all the stuff's been bank stuff has finally been sorted out. So doors and windows in the new year and back garden. So no more dog muck in my house during the rest of the year.
Good times. That is good. That's the one thing I like. I have a yard and instead of a garden because the dog muck's just so much easier to pick up. And I'm shit at cutting grass. I always leave it. It's about this big, and I'm like that wading through it. I hate it.
We've had ours all done as well. Ours is all fake grass now in the back. Yeah. So much easier.
It's great all the time. Always looks great. You look at the window, it always looks great. Jess is a stand-up comedian over here. So, but the first year she was living here, she had a fantastic time watching me fighting with a cable of a lawnmower and first world problems. Like my preferred lawnmower wasn't working, so I had to use the crappy electric one. And then I'd spend an hour fighting with a cord in the back garden, and she just stands outside the window breaking her shite, laughing at it, and thought it was the best thing she'd ever seen. So I was like, if I never have to cut grass again, any time in the future, it would be a good day.
I love that. Dr. Cox says, if anyone looks 40, it's Joe. Well, I'm going to tell you a little story here, right? Yesterday, someone knocked on the door, right? And it was I can't even check my phone now, but basically it was an app. And what they were doing is, we want you to order from this app because, like you used to get your milkman that would come round with your milk bottles and your orange and all that sort of stuff. Basically, it's an app that gives you the functionality to do this, right?
Modern Milkman, by any chance?
That's the one. That was it. Modern Milkman.
I get that.
You use it, right?
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah.
So this person who was a lot younger said, "Do you remember the glass bottles of milk?" I said, "I do. Yeah. Do you?" And they went, yeah. I went, "Why are you lying?" I said, "You definitely do not." It was a younger lass. She went, "Why, how old are you?" I said, "I'm 35. She went, "You look like you're in your 20s. I went, "Fuck you. Don't try them selling techniques with me, love." I says, "I won't have it. You're all right," and sent her on her way. But there you go. Evie and the Leeds twins. I like that. Grant and Phil Mitchell, isn't it? And you can be Peggy.
Mitchell brothers, isn't it?
Yeah. You can be Peggy. Get it.
Why am I the oldest again? Why am I above 40 again?
Sharon.
All right.
You gotta get your top lip completely sucked onto your teeth. Like, get
it. Definitely. I like that. Right. Listen, that's the niceties over. Let's talk. First of all, Joe, me and you had a little conversation over voice note on my way home. talking about Daniel Farke's presser. I've done my reaction to it, which I've just noticed is the background to this video, so that needs taking off, and I will put the right background on. So I've given my thoughts on it, and I think our thoughts are aligned because Daniel Farke was saying all these things about, oh, you've got an 18-man squad and a few youngsters and you share minutes. And I'm listening to him going, yeah, but you don't do that. And I know you feel the same. So I wanted to just hear what you had to say on the presser this afternoon.
It's not even just this presser. There's been a couple and a post-match as well where, and again, because someone will tell me I'm bashing a manager who knows better than I do, and to avoid that from happening, I like Daniel Farke. I think he's a very, very good manager. I think we're very lucky to have a very good manager. That is blanket statement. However, there are a couple of things that are starting to just niggle a little bit. Not to say that he's talking out of both sides of his mouth completely, but there is an element of saying things to appease a question, but the reality is saying something slightly different. And I've tried to get as prepared for this so I've written a few things down. He talked about you need to have a big squad to rotate in a 46-game season with 20 games in, and he hasn't used half of the squad. So we're 3 games away from being halfway through. Sorry, 1.5 game away from 46 games. Sorry, 3 games away from being halfway through the season. And he still hasn't used half of the squad. Joffrey Gallagher's barely kicked the ball. Mateo Joseph's getting a couple of minutes now, but barely saw the park most of the season. Charlie Creswell's barely kicked the ball. You know, I said Joffrey already. There's others there that I can't remember, but there's other people down the pecking order. Leo Hill has gone out of the picture completely. And I thought that's not accurate. You're not, like, you're saying you're using your squad. You're saying it's important to rotate. He said it again. You have to rotate in a season like this, but yet he hasn't rotated. He was then asked, did the Stoke game upset you? The fact, you rotated for that game, it didn't work. Was that playing on your mind? And he said, no, not really. But it kind of feels like it has been because he hasn't played either Groove since then. He hasn't started Nanto or Anthony since then. There's a lot of talk of Anthony going back to Bournemouth now, popping back up again. So you're not using these players. He said that it's great to have young players on the bench that you can spring on when you need to, but yet he hasn't done that either outside of Willie Nanto, but he's ignored the rest of the bench in favour of Cooper at times, Bamford at times. Then he said about Charlie Creswell that it's great to have Charlie Creswell, and I would have absolutely no problem starting Charlie Creswell if I had to, but yet he has moved a left centre-back to right centre-back to accommodate Liam Cooper and not played a right centre-back in a right centre-back position in Charlie Creswell. So if you're saying you have no problem starting him, the evidence is saying you do because you're willing to upset the entire backline shape to accommodate a left footer out of position. You're saying that you've no problem giving young players a chance, but you haven't really done that outside of the players that were already established from last year that were in the team, like Willie Nanto. And you're saying it's important to rotate the squad, which you're not doing. But then at the exact same time, after saying, it's important to rotate the squad, there's so many games, he said 4 days since the last game is plenty of time. They're not that soft. The starting 11 should be fine, which would suggest he's not going to plan on rotating the squad this week either. He then said in his press conference about wins and losses. And he said, we talk about rotating the squad after we've lost a game, but we don't talk about when we've won. Like, well, that's how football works. That's football. If you lose a game, people are going to analyze why you lost the game. We looked like we had some very, very, very tired players against Sunderland, especially in the middle of the park. I thought 2 lads looked really tired in the middle of the park. And Rutter was, then he said about, in the point about playing young players and giving lads a chance off the bench, talked about Mateo Joseph, Pat Bamford goes on ahead of Joe Gelhardt on a regular basis. In fact, Gelhardt can't make the bench most of the time. And then the other piece was on the weekend, he then came out and said that Jorginho Rutter had a cold and was suffering. Bamford had a flu and he was suffering. But yet you didn't put Joe Gelhardt in that squad. You started players who were sick over the bench players, which clearly suggests to me that you don't fancy the bench players because you're playing players that are not 100%. And if you've got a flu, you're not 100%. You're tired. Your muscles are sore. And if you're not going to put Joseph in or Gelhardt in at that point, then you can't say that you're willing to give these people a chance when you're not giving them a chance. Now, that might change. He said that might change in the next half of the season. And that's fine. And again, I'm not saying I'm against Farke. I'm not. We're in a really good position. Like I said on my own podcast, if you take the top 2 seats, start out of the equation completely, based on last year, Leeds are 2 points clear at top of the league and coasting. So I'm not complaining about what he's done. I'm just saying when you do say something, the evidence has to suggest the same thing, or it's not true. And unfortunately, right now, there's a couple of bits coming about rotations of squad and players. Of course, we're going to say you should rotate the squad after the last game because the players looked tired and we lost. So obviously, we're going to say you need to change some things. So, and then saying 4 days is enough time to recover. If they were tired in midweek, they're still tired on Saturday.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I've had this graphic up while you've been talking there, Jer, and you can see like Ampadu's played every minute. The one thing that frustrated me from the press is like Berren says, Ampadu's played every minute. Have you been impressed by him? Now, obviously, Daniel Farke's response to that is yes, when we know Berren's asking the question because he's tired and his performances have waned. So why not say Ampadu's played every minute? Are you going to rest him at any point? Do you know what I mean? It's like, why? This is the questions, because all the presser was about minutes and was about squad rotation, but no one actually said, are you playing too many? Are you not rotating enough? And I was a bit like, you know?
There's a really good comment there. That is it pretty much there. Gil Saville, Baron Cross or Adam Pope alluded to the fact that Ipswich had made 5 changes and their squad looked the same. Farkas said didn't say much on the subject yet because he hasn't done that. And that's the thing. If you look at the player, and especially coming to January, and this is where I sit on the squad, and again, this is subjective. This depends on the manager's take on things. But if you're using the same 3 subs, and when we are winning games, so when we're losing games, it's Anthony, Nonto, Bamford are the 3 that come on straight away.
Yeah.
When we're winning games, it's Cooper, Ayling that come on. Okay, to shut, and Gruev to shut things up, but they're usually after 70 minutes. So then he said in the press conference as well about, well, you know, when you get your chances, you've got to take them. You've got to train like you're training for a Champions League final. Like, these aren't players are not at Champions League final level, so they're not going to train like that ever. They're not at that level to do that. And then saying, well, you know, when you get your minutes on the pitch, you've got to take them. So 15 minutes is anyone who's played football can tell you can't get into a game in 50 minutes. You might get the odd match where you come on last 15, score a goal or do something. But in general, you'll have minimal to no impact because it takes you that long to get up to speed again. 30 minutes minimum if you want someone to have a proper impact, or if you're giving players minutes. To suggest that they need to be taking their chances in 5-10 minutes is, I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's a fair thing as well. But when you do look at Ipswich changing 5 players and being exactly the same, you look at the Leeds squad and go, if you're only using the same 5 players off the bench every single week, that would suggest that you don't trust or will not use the remainder of your squad outside of those few players. So in that case, Leeds have a decision to make. Do you stick with those players that he's not using at all, or do you send them out on loan or sell them? And then the question needs to be, well, if he doesn't trust the bench, and again, I'm not saying he doesn't, but the actions would suggest he doesn't as much as the starting 11, then you've either got to give him better players on that bench that he can trust and get rid of the ones that are there, or he has to start using the ones, because he says he trusts his bench. He's got Groove on that bench who he bought. He'd Nonto who he fought to keep. He'd Bamford who he hasn't stopped waxing lyrical about since he came into the club. And for me, I watched the final word tonight, Joe, and I watched all the comments about Patrick Bamford. I've yet to see any impact from Patrick Bamford when he comes on. I know he can score goals, and I know when he's in confidence he'll do really, really well, but he's not, and he's not. So some of the stuff that he's saying just doesn't add up at this point. When you start putting all of that together, it doesn't start to make a whole lot of sense.
No, I agree. And there's loads in there. And I want to hot tip to you here, Evie, because you were on this show with Lloyd a couple of weeks back and you mentioned about players coming into games and being cold, you said. Like, it's not as if they've had enough minutes to be at a level where we can make 5 changes and they've had enough game time, so therefore it's like it works in synergy, like the Ipswich one. Whereas the last time we made multiple changes, we got beat by Stoke, and arguably it was the worst performance of the season for me. Anyway, I think Stoke probably was the worst, I would say, and that's when he's made them changes. Because Baron Cross asked him, "Has that made you fearful of making them in future, for example?" And he was like, "No, not at all. I know when I need to make changes, etc." But you made that point about players being cold, and I think Graham Smith says, how can players, attacking players, be at a level if they're not getting enough minutes? And that's when he mentioned, they need to train like it's a Champions League final and stuff. But that's the point, isn't it? They need to be seeing more of the pitch on even if, and I mentioned this, Ampadu, for example, needs a rest. For me, use Gruev, don't change anyone else. So then Gruev can seamlessly go in and have players that are all playing instead of going, there's 5 changes and they're all like, oh shit, we haven't played enough together, where you can make little changes, give James a rest and put onto it.
That's what I said last time, is the fact is, if you just make one change every game, then in a different position each game, you've got a player that is fresh in that thing. And then if you do have to make 5 changes because of red cards, yellow cards, injuries, different team, therefore they need different tactics to actually play, then they're all fully singing off the same hymn sheet. They know what is expected of them. They know the patterns. You could see in, I know we're going to talk about the Sunderland game, but you could see Somerville and Spence were not on the same page like Byram and Somerville are. The little interchanges running down the wing, they just were getting in each other's way. They both had the exact same idea. So it wasn't like it was scripted patterns. It was like they were singing off different scripts kind of thing. And it made it very uncomfortable to watch, because you knew exactly what they were trying to do, but they couldn't do it. And for me, that's on Daniel Farke, because you can't expect players to perform for you and then they lose confidence because they're given an opportunity and then they fail in that opportunity and then they're not given the chance to do it again. I agree with Joe, what has Bamford done this season? But yet he is one of the select 5 who always comes on. And for me, he shouldn't be the first forward player that we sub on. And for a lot of the games this season, he has been. And he's not done anything that impacts the game positively if we need a game changer. He's good at holding the ball up, I'll give him that. And that hasn't gone away. His ability to find the back of the net has, but his actual ability to bully defenders hasn't gone away. But he hasn't done anything when he's come on. We can't say, right, he's on, all of a sudden, we're going to do something, we're going to win. We're just not. And yeah, I think the Tuesday game highlights how much we need a number 10, like for me, and obviously a left back and a number 10. And a left centre back as well. But if all we got were 2 players, it would be a left back and a number 10 for me.
Yeah, I think that you make a great point on the 10. And again, it sort of backs up maybe, because is it a case of him not trusting the team enough? Because a player that, for example, if we look at the minutes, like I just have out, Poveda had more minutes on the pitch than Gruyev. But clearly, Daniel Farke didn't rate Poveda because he's allowed him to go mid-season to thingy. So the fact that Poveda was getting more minutes than Gruyev, and I know it's different positions, tells you that arguably maybe, like I know Jamie mentions it all the time, that's poor recruitment then. Because if you're willing to play a player over him who you don't really fancy because you've pied him off mid-season, I know they're different positions, Joe. I get it. But if you look like at the last game Gruyev came on, he actually came on in a more advanced role. Yeah. Maybe that's because he didn't have Poveda and he would have turned to him. But it is that case of using the same subs at the same time. Like I said during the Middlesbrough game, because I was annoyed during the watch line, I said, this is going one of 2 ways. I said, we score again and he then makes the changes, or we go behind, or they draw with us, and he throws on 4 strikers. It's like, why not be proactive instead of reactive?
I think
why not go on?
I think the frustrating thing is he does have tactical nous. He's just not showing it for some reason, because we saw in the Leicester game, for instance, their wingers in the first half were incredible and were bullying us essentially. And then in the second half, our wingers then doubled up with our right back and left back, and it just nullified their attack. Exactly.
Like Jack Clarke, exactly the same.
I'm gonna give a little hot take, but I don't actually think Jack Clarke was that great. He ran, but if you put Jack Clarke in a Leeds team, we call him Dan James 2.0 of the Premier League. He ran and ran and ran, but he didn't actually do anything. His shot is still going into row Z as we speak. So like he didn't actually achieve anything. Everybody goes on that Jack Clarke was incredible. No, it's just that we weren't at the races that day and we made him look better than he actually is. But his finishing and his stats prove on his finishing. I don't think we did a bad job getting rid of him.
That's
Go on,
hell of a hot take. Evie.
What I will say though, he has scored 10 goals, but 5 of them have been penalties. By the way,
also, and the reason I'm nodding along, Evie, is I listened to something during the week and they're talking about Jack Clarke's stats. He's created 44 chances this year, not big chances, but he's created 44 chances from open play. And he has 1 assist.
Yeah. That's Aronson's stats from last season.
That's exactly it. Yeah, it's like you're doing all the work to get to that position, but then there's nothing happening from it. So what's your impact in the game, really? But to be fair, I thought he was very good in certain things that he does, but he didn't really need to have an end product out of Archie. To be fair, all he had to do was commit Archie, just keep running at him and tire him out, and that kind of. Once he got booked, Archie couldn't touch him. But the second half, Archie did a great job to not get red carded and to deal with him. But I think you're 100% on the money with it. That's an entire Leeds team that weren't at it. Ampadu passing wasn't good. Kamara's passing wasn't good. They've been sensational this season, and their passing 5 yards was poor. The link-up play, the movement off the ball. Joe, we've talked about this for weeks and weeks and weeks, and I said, if you look at the Huddersfield game, 45 minutes in, Leeds are 4-0 up, take the foot off the gas, concede. Now, they still win the game, but they concede. Then you look at the Plymouth game, it was 25 minutes, Leeds are 2-0 up, Leeds take their foot off the gas, Plymouth score. Leeds don't score again. Can't get it going again. Very hard. First half against Norwich, couldn't get it going. Started off way too slow. Norwich scored. Leeds took the second half. And then, as Evie said, it takes Farke to get them into the dressing room at half time, to change the tactics, to change the shape, to get a reaction. And then you look at the Sunderland game and it's 20 minutes into the game. Sorry, it's 10 minutes into the game and the foot gets taken off the pressure. And I think what Evie said is 100%. I think Evie's 100%. They got bullied. The front four got bullied. And that's what happened. And once they went out of the game, that was it. Couldn't get the tempo going again. Couldn't get it back up. It's such a hard thing to do, to get back up to where you should be when you drop off. And that's a problem for Leeds. I keep saying it, when we pass the ball quickly. So what I'm talking about, because people will say they can't run for 100% for 90 minutes. What I mean by this is there's movement off the ball, consistent. Doesn't be sprinting, but there's movement. So you've got angles. The passing is rapid. The passing is quickly rather than the players moving quickly, which means you dominate the ball, which means you move the opposition. You look at Sunderland's block, and it was a really good low block to give Sunderland a massive amount of credit. That block from the start as a front block into a mid and then into a low block was excellent. Everywhere they put it, they stopped us playing out in the back from the first half. It was right up on top of us. We couldn't get past them. And then the second half, it sat in. They did a really good job of organising that. But their job is to shift left and right as a block. And the issue with Leeds is they're not shifting the ball quick enough to get to the gap on the far side. They did it a little bit better when Nanto came on. But that's the problem. When it's slow and there's no movement, and there was no movement in the second half against Sunderland, and even if you bring in all the 6 strikers, pile everyone out front, all you get is 5 defenders standing like that, and then 6 more players directly in front of them, and nobody to find any kind of space to put the ball into, because there's no more space there. So unless you're going to lump the ball into the box, you're not going to get any joy out of it, and that's the problem. So there needs to be a plan B. There needs to be better tactics, but also, like, Leeds weren't at it. Leeds weren't at it against Sunderland the same way they weren't at it against Stoke. There's got to be a better way of doing things. We don't have a creative number 10, so Joe Pirro goes missing in these kind of games, not because it's his fault, but because that's not the kind of player he is. He's the tidy 5-6 yard link-up play number 10, but he's not the Pablo. He's not a player who's going to get the ball, find the gap and pop it in. And that's where Leeds are massively lacking right now. So again, to Evie's point, if we don't go out and sign a number 10 who's creative, and Leeds had money in the bank at the end of the window, and they tried to sign a number 10, which would suggest that Farke did want that at the time, and potentially still does.
Yeah, I think we'll be active. There seems to be a general, oh no, we won't. Look, the fact that in the last presser prior to this one, he did say, when asked about the left back, are you considering it with injuries? And he went, I was considering it anyway. So I don't expect Leeds United to stand still. We might have to wait to the last week of the window, because they're very strategic with their analysis and when they feels the right time to move, which for me, I might be pulling my hair out from my chin, maybe I don't know, not from here,
your head,
but yeah, but yeah, I think we will be active. Let me just get some. CR821 says, "Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas to you, mate. I hope everyone has a great Christmas. You're just 10 days away now. It's crazy." Nice. Andy Peacock's just gifted 5 Just Your Football Show membership, which is legend status. He's forever doing that. Thank you very much, Andy. And Helen Walker hasn't put a comment in, but shout out to you for being a member for 21 months. And I just want to shout out my good friend Don Hussam, who Leeds United fans might know from the propaganda. This is the Jordan Liverpool fan who rolls his R's when he talks about Curtis Jones. He says, see you in the Premier League next year, Joe. I do hope so, Hussam. I hope you're doing well, my man. Do we need to talk about Sunderland, or did we do it there? I think we sort of did it there, didn't we? Does anyone else want to add anything before we talk about the weekend?
I don't think we deserve to lose, but I equally don't. You can't argue with the result either, in the fact of Sunderland. That is a team who were singing off the same script. Like, I was impressed with them. I wasn't impressed with the quality. I was impressed that they came with a plan, and they completely, every single player from the first minute to the 90th minute were fully invested in that plan and smothered us whilst allowing us to have the ball. So, they just didn't allow us to do anything. And obviously, Joe, I know that you've been a big kind of advocate of Piro's not a 10, Rutter's not a 9, etc. In a game like that, do you think that if Piro plays as the 9, it allows Rutter to go and create something? Because we had nothing. Piro can't run as fast. He isn't creative. He's good at the little passes that are basically invisible to people who don't know anything about tactics. And I include myself sometimes in that. I've tried to pay more attention to him because otherwise, when he doesn't score, he's a bit infuriating. So I do think that he is good, but in games like that, when we don't necessarily, they're not going to allow us to press because they've got such a mid to low block. If you then push Rutter further back and allow him, because all of his best highlights have been, from deep in our own half and running at them and terrifying them, because you don't know which limb you're going to get, kind of thing. He just comes gangling towards them, and he's able to just hold on to the ball, push past people. So do you think that that's a little kind of tactical thing that he could, if he just swapped just for that game and allowed Piro to play in the number 9, knowing that he's not going to be the press that we necessarily usually go for? But I know that you've also said that what you don't often see us as actually that much of a pressing team. We don't have a unique, that's a press kind of style.
It's more of a high step than a press. It's not like
Does
that make any sense? Like everyone steps on a couple of yards and they get a bit closer, but nobody really. I don't want to.
Like, if you compare the pressing under Bielsa, it was insane, wasn't it? Like the
press is supposed to be triggered. It's supposed to be triggered, and it's supposed to be known by everybody. So if the trigger is when the left centre back passes to the left foot as he turns to open his body to pass, that's the trigger. So that when you see that, your winger hits the fullback straight away to intercept the ball before it gets there. Your striker presses on to stop the reverse pass. Your 10 comes across to cut the ball into the space, and your fullback's pressing. It's kind of it was one thing that we did well under Jesse Marsh. That was the ironic. It was the only thing that we did well under Jesse Marsh was if you look at how often we won the ball back in the opposition's half. Now, fair enough, he overdid. He had 11 players running after the ball, but you should do it with 5 or 6 at least and lead your defenders. So that's what it should look like. But that's a press. That's it. That means win the ball back. We kind of go in kind of force mistakes. So we kind of get close enough to make you kick it away, but not close enough to try and win it off you, if that makes sense. But we're kind of hoping you'll put your foot through it and give us back possession. So when he says about the press, I'm like, I'm not really fussed on our press, to be honest. I think it's fine at times. It works okay. But I don't think it's an out-and-out tactical press. I don't think it's something that we'd hang our hat on and say that's a Leeds style thing. It doesn't strike me that. But I think you're completely right. And again, look, I'm playing an old record here, but Georgina Rudders, and you said it, all of his good stuff has come from deep. Everything, all of his assists are deep. All of his big chances are deep. Just play him there. Just put him where he's doing the good stuff, and put Joe Piro where he scores goals. And maybe it's so obvious that Daniel Farke won't do it, or maybe it's too obvious to us that we see it, and he's like playing 40 chess, and he's like, nah, you are way behind me. What I'm doing here, he has a bigger plan. Maybe that's what it is. But I think it's very obvious. I also think Willie Nunto playing as number 10 is so obvious as well. But we don't do that either. But we've never done it. So what do I know?
Yeah. See, this is the thing. It comes back. I was saying this on my presser reaction earlier. Is like even if you, like we're talking about rotation, even if you said, you know what, this game I'm going to put Anthony out on left and give Rutter a rest. So what I'm going to do is move Somerville central, which he likes to do, and then play James out right. And then in another game, do you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to drop James and play Nonto, Rutter, and Somerville. It's just all these little tweaks, and I know. He said, I'm not one for one in, one out. And you do need to have a regular starting 11. But when we are starting to see drops in performances, which we are doing, we are doing from a few. Rutter was not at the races at all, couldn't trap wind against Sunderland. Like you mentioned, Ampadu and Kamara started so high up the pitch, I was saying, he's all over Joe Bellingham. And then as the game went on, we just retreated, the midfield pair retreated. So it was like, oh, right, okay.
10 minutes show. From the 10th minute on, we dropped.
Yeah, exactly. So it becomes, then you're like, right, okay, so it is what it is. Let's look ahead to Coventry, and we have to start straight away with, do we expect him to make any changes in going into this one? Because I don't, based on what he said in the presser about, we've had 4 days rest, that's fine in terms of load. But then thinking...
That's the bit that threw me, because that's too obvious. And he's done this before about Rudder. He said Georgina Rudder probably won't play, and then he started him. So I would have said he needs to make probably 3 changes. Just 3. I think 3 would be enough. Change one in the midfield, 2, maybe change fullback, maybe sort of midfield, maybe change Pirro and Rudder a bit, maybe take out one of them for a rest and throw somebody else in for a crack. Which I can't believe I said out loud, because I hate that. I hate people just giving somebody a go for the sake of giving them a go. But we've got other strikers on the bench, but it's Farke. So ultimately, I'm like, you're not going to change it. Now, I always say a manager won't change a winning team. This team is lost. So will he now bring players in? And I'm really curious to see what the situation with Jaden Anthony is going to be now going forward. If there's any truth to the rumor about Anthony, then it might be tricky to put him in a squad. You don't know, but I suppose we'll find out. I don't think he makes many changes. I think maybe 1.
Just saying, I told people about this Anthony crack back in October, and
you did, yeah. For it. Apparently, it's Bournemouth. Though. Apparently, they want to cancel Sinister as long.
Do you know what though? Even still though, can you blame? I don't know how it is going to develop, but I don't blame. For me, I do not blame Jaden Anthony. By the way, this is not on him if he does want to go back, because I had a look. He played 242 minutes in 4 games in the Premier League, and he's come to Leeds, and Stokes played 75. Do you know what I mean? Or thereabouts. It's what?
I don't blame Farke for that either, because he's kind of just found himself as a victim of circumstance. He's behind 2 wingers who are doing the job, and that's been his issue.
I mean, you can't. That's the thing in it. No one's. You could maybe argue James and Nonto, but the way Somerville's played, it's you're not getting in there at all, because he has been amazing. But look, back to the weekend against Coventry. First time we faced defeat since October, Evie, so it's been a while. Ending a 7-match unbeaten streak in the Championship. And we've not suffered back-to-back defeats since relegation, right? So we've not experienced this yet. The fact that we are at home, where we've won 7 consecutive league matches, scoring 2+ goals in 5 of the last home league outings as well, surely everything tells us we win this game.
So we're losing 3-0 then.
As soon as he said, "No, we don't lose back-to-back
games." What I don't want is, I don't want complacency. I think we've become borderline arrogant in the fact that our players think they've won games before they've stepped on.
You're back. You're back. It's fine.
I love confidence, but I think that some of the squad, and I've said this before, think that they believe the hype, and you're only as good as your next loss. And we've lost, and we lose. We win, draw, and lose as a team. So no matter how good, I think Somerville and Meslier were probably our best players on that game. I felt sorry for Meslier, because I actually thought that he deserved a clean sheet, which is why I said that I think we deserved a draw, because he made obviously a couple of just amazing saves. that I haven't watched, but I'm sure even Gabe couldn't deny that they were good saves. But I want him to make a couple of changes. I want him to shock us, because I think it will shock the opponents. Because if any manager worth their salt looks at our team and sees how many of those people have been in the, on the team sheet for how many, consecutive games they've all played, and thinks, right, they're tiring. You look at the fan base, we can see the fact that Ampadu hasn't been the player that he was since probably the Leicester game. I don't think he's been as good. He's still done a job, and I still wouldn't trade him for many others in the Championship, but the level that he started at is not the level that he's currently playing at. And I think that in order to give the team the best chance, and this is something that I don't know whether you guys agree, but I think Farke has improved certain players, i.e. Dan James, Somerville, Rutter, Strauch. He has improved his players, as in the players that he clearly prefers, he has improved. What has he done for Nonto? What has he done for Anthony? What has he done for Joseph? And I know Joseph was injured, and I know that you did like him during pre-season, so maybe scratch that one. But there just seems to be, just when you think that you've got rid of kind of that leadership group, it's like a new favourites group has emerged instead. And it makes you think that if we don't get up, are the players that have been left out but will still be with us next season going to play for Farke like the ones that he prefers are playing for him now? And that's what makes me nervous about Saturday's game, is the fact that our starting 11 isn't as strong as our starting 11 was 3-4 games ago, even though it's the exact same players, 99% anyway. So when you're making those changes, are those players going to want to play as much as the current starting 11 do? Because I don't think that they're having the same, I don't think he's having the same positive effect on them as the current starting 11.
There's a thing called the law of diminishing returns, which is the more you do something, the less impact it has over time. And that's what you're seeing. You're playing the same players on a constant basis, and you're having slightly less impact there. And it's minimal percentages, like every game, slightly less. I mean, it's tiny. But over 20 games, you start to see a pretty big drop off from where they started to where they get to. And it's the same with the subs. And it's a really good point, Evie, because if you think about it from the subs perspective, if you're on that bench and you historically for 20 games haven't been playing, you're sitting on that bench every week going, I'm not playing. Like, I'm not being brought on.
Yeah.
So you're not mentally ready for that, because, again, that's the law of diminishing returns. You keep playing the same players off the bench all the time, and the rest of them are going to go, well, what's the point? And even the players that are coming on for 30 minutes, or for 20 minutes, or 15 minutes, or 10 minutes, they're also going to be looking at it going, well, I'm here every single week on this bench, and I play 10 minutes every single week. So no matter how much warming up I do, I'm getting the call about 75 minutes to get ready to go on. And I'll be on for 80. And that's the same thing. So your effort level just starts to drop. Your mental preparation just drops a little. And then by the time you look at the subs now and you go, they're coming on with little to no impact.
Yep.
Well,
and it's a bit like we're falling into the similar trap of last season. How poor was Aronson, and yet Nonto couldn't get a game above him, and Rutter couldn't get a game above him. But because of his price tag, maybe because of his name and other factors, he was getting played over people that were clearly far superior, as we're now seeing, footballers than he was. And we don't want that. We don't want any of that negativity back, which which is why, obviously, with the Sinisterra, if that does come to fruition, I don't want him anywhere near, because he's talented, like there's no denying that. And I'm not going to kind of backpedal and rewrite history. He was one of our best players last season, but he wasn't reliable, in terms of, he managed to get sent off in that Villa game, and then he got injured, and then, I don't think he got any assists either. And for a winger, that's unusual. So, like, he was good, but he wasn't available half of the time. He threatened to sue us. So how's that going to go around in the dressing room when all of those players who went to the Birmingham game, and it was an awful game. It was miserable as hell to watch that game. It was painful, and it just felt like a chore to watch. I felt like I was like, right, I'm a Leeds fan, so I've got to watch this game, kind of thing. Nobody got any enjoyment out of that game. I don't think even any of the players, who were earning a decent salary, got any enjoyment out of that game. So nobody's going to want him back. So just, I don't want anything that ruined us last season or for the last couple of seasons to come back. I think Daniel Farke has worked so hard to get that, but then he's creating a new problem. It's a bit like what you said earlier on, Jerry. There's just little things that are bugging me. I have complete faith in him as a manager. He's won the league twice before, but he also had a Buendia, he had a Pukki. We don't have those Farke players kind of thing, and we just don't have that. We don't have Pablo, and he was key for us getting promoted last time. So we're still struggling to get in. And I don't agree. Justin Thomas has put Cine Walks into this team. No, he doesn't. Daniel Farke's pride wouldn't allow him to walk in. No, absolutely not.
Can you imagine him walking out on Ellen Road with a Leeds shirt on? Can you imagine the reception he's going to get for threatening to sue the club? Can you imagine that reaction that you get? Like you can do a lot of things with Leeds, but threatening to take the club down so you can get out.
Absolutely
I'm sorry,
not.
there's no coming back from that.
But the atmosphere is still weird at Ellen Road. So we're still struggling from the last 2 seasons. We still can't quite believe that we're winning games, which is why I think the atmosphere isn't as kind of Ellen Road like as it used to be. So why would you bring that back? Why would you bring, the kind of PTSD of last season back into the club? So.
It's an outlook right away. Apparently that's the same with Aronson. They're saying that they've already got plans. If these players ever do come back, there's plans to ship them straight back out.
We'll see. We shall see.
Also, just because there's obviously people coming in late, we did caveat this at the start by saying Daniel Farke is fine. He's doing a really good job. Normal season, we'll be top of the division. We're still doing okay. I still think we get all that promotion. But the thing about this is, and this is the point of the whole conversation, we have to be slightly extra critical because we have to catch 2 teams who are perfect right now, who are nearly perfect. So we have to always be better than what they're doing. And every time we fall slightly short of that, we're going to criticize it and take it apart a little bit. It's not to say we don't have faith in Daniel Farke. I do. I think he's doing a really, really good job. And as Evie said, he's made so many players better already, but there's more to do. And I know it's a 20-game season, 20 games only gone, it's a 46-game season, but we have work to do. We have to be better. We have to always be better than the top 2. Otherwise, we're not going to close that gap. And that's unfortunately, that's the problem that Daniel Farke is going to have. And that's the framing of the season is going to be around, the top 2 are miles ahead. How did you catch up, or what did you do to catch up with them? And that's what we're critiquing, I suppose, more than anything else. But I don't have a problem with the man.
No. So okay. There's all this. Obviously, this can be. The mood will be rectified if we win tomorrow.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ipswich play Norwich as well, and I'm still hoping that the Old Farm Derby lives up to its name.
Is that what it's called?
Well, yeah.
I was thinking like Pasty Derby or something,
the old Farm Derby, Ipswich versus Norwich. Hopefully Norwich pulls something out of the bag and then we can cut this gap. Look, Coventry are a very good side. Under no illusion. They are, if you like, in a false position in terms of expected points and stuff. They've had a bit of issues in terms of finding back of the net. Obviously, last season they have Gyökeres and Hamer. This season, Ellie Sims hasn't got nowhere near as return or hasn't really worked out up to this point. Callum O'Hare's back in the side, which is a massive plus for them. But their away form is really, really poor. They've lost 4 of their last 5 trips on the road. 3 of them games only coming by the odd goal, though. So they are tight games. Games. I'm expecting a tight game tomorrow because I do think Coventry are a very good side and Robbins is a great manager. But I just think regardless of what team we put out, the form that we are in at home, the form that we've been in this season, regardless of the most recent result, like's been said, any normal season, we're top of the league. So I think for me, I'm confident that we still win this game, and then we can start getting nervous for the Ipswich game, which is on the 23rd. You know what I mean? Which is like do or die time already. But Joe, what do you reckon's going to happen tomorrow? How do you see it?
I think it goes one of two ways. I think their first point thing is going to be really, it could be a very, very tight game. They've kept 6 clean sheets this season. We've kept 7. It puts them pretty much on par with us for clean sheets. They don't concede a huge amount of goals, even when they do, outside of the odd blip. Very good manager, Mark Robbins. They've got a guy who's been around the place, knows the place. Leeds haven't played them since 2012, so that's going to be interesting to see us play against them because it's been a long time since we played Coventry. So, I would expect a reaction from Leeds. And I would also, it's a 3:00 kickoff in Ellen Road. It's not 12:30. It's not Friday night. There'll be plenty of drink taken in the afternoon. There'll be pretty loud crowd. Ellen Road will be absolutely hopping, and I think that'll be enough to get us across the line. I would expect a big reaction in this game. I think Farke felt the pressure today. His body language in the press conference was a lot more defensive. The arms were crossed, the head was down. You know, he wasn't sitting back as normal. He was a bit more, slightly more defensive than he has been. I think whatever he says to the press, I think it's a different reaction necessarily in the dressing room. I think he might have given the players a rocket. I think you'll see a reaction in this game. I think we win the game, or it's like a 0-0. But I don't think we lose.
No. What about you, Evie? How do you see it?
I was literally just about to say exactly what Jer said at the end there. I don't think we'll lose. I think we keep the unbeaten record. And I think that past performances say that we go and we thump them because we have always won when we've been beaten after August. When we've been beaten, we go and win decently. Even if it doesn't, I'm not saying decent like it's going to be a Huddersfield scoreline, but I mean that we go and we perform well. Like even when we weren't amazing against Blackburn, and obviously we weren't great against Sunderland. Like I do think recently we've had okay games that we have won. I don't think we've necessarily played really well. Probably Leicester was probably our last most complete performance. I'm not saying that we haven't played well in spells, but I just don't think we've been fully at it. I think we've done what we needed to do, which is what you could say about Leicester and things, like they have had fewer good performances than we have this season, but they've just got the job done. And I think that we will do that tomorrow. I think we will perform well, and I think we won't lose. I'm not committing to us winning because I hate it when people bring out these stats like, oh, they're poor away from home and, we're unbeaten and this, that, and the other. I'd rather be a tad pessimistic. I'm like an optimistic realist kind of thing. I like to see the good side of things, but just not get carried away because
that sounds a posh word for negative, that, Evie, to be honest.
There is
a realistic optimist, however you want to phrase it.
Realist is not realist. There's stats to back up what Evie's saying. Like we were poor against Hull City, 0-0 draw with them. We went out and beat Watford 3-0 straight away after that. The Stoke game we lose 1-0. Following game we beat Huddersfield 4-1. Rotherham we get 1-1. Not a great game. We go and beat Swansea 3-1. So every game we've been like below par, we've pretty much followed up with a heavy, not a heavy score, but more, but 3 goals or more. We can see we conceded still, but that needs to stop. We need to stop conceding goals to shitty teams. Also, that needs to stop. But I think there's a reaction there. I think we'll get 2 or 3 goals. I shouldn't have said that. Why did I say that?
No, I think you're right. Do you know what, as well? I'm just seeing here as well, like, there's only Ipswich that have bettered our points total after falling behind as well, right? So, like, if we do go behind, one thing we can say for this side is we will, 9 times out of 10, Sunderland aside, we will try and get back into the game. We have seen times this season where we've been able to come back and do that. I'm going to get some score predictions from you before we finish up. It's nearly 11:30. I don't want to keep you too long. I'm going to go for I do think they will score. I do think it'll be quite nervy, but I think we'll win out. And I think it'll be 2-1. And hopefully, my main thing is I'm hoping we as a fan base can go into the fixture bouncing. And that's those at Ellen Road as well, because I've been at Ellen Road before when I remember it was the Easter game. I think Millwall beat Sheffield United and then we played Wigan. And the atmosphere going into Wigan was amazing because Sheffield United had just dropped points. I think it might have been a draw, actually, if I remember rightly. But I remember being in the fan zone and that coming through and us all being like, yes, let's go. So hopefully Ipswich Norwich goes in the way of Norwich, which means the crowd will be buoyed anyway. And then we can go and put Coventry to the sword. I'm going to go for 2-1 to Leeds United with goals by Willie Nontucks. He's going to start. And Chris Somerville. Just score prediction and scorers, mate.
I'll take the positive one. 3-1 win. But I think we concede. I think Cree gets one. I don't think James plays because I think I'll play a low block. Nanto, I agree with. I think Nanto will play. And I think he probably scores. And I think Bamford.
Paddy B.
Got to score eventually.
He has to. He
can't go the whole season without a goal.
That sounds more like a challenge than anything else, though, Joe, to be fair.
Paddy, prove me wrong.
Evie?
I'm going to go 2-2.
Do you know the mood within this fan base? If we drop points again, it'll be
I know.
Too much.
I know. I want it to be a win. I really, really do. And I want to be proven wrong. Never say that women don't want to be proven wrong, because I really do want to be proven wrong right now. I really want him to, to just no. If Jess says anything, I fully support her. And you're wrong already. But I just think that he needs to put a rocket up them. And my main concern is Rutter. Whenever Rutter's performances drop, we drop. And we don't have a replacement for him. He is our number 10. And if he's not at the races, you saw Somerville trying desperately to create things on Tuesday. And there was no other outlet for him to go to, because Pirro was halfway back up the pitch. And Rutter just couldn't make the ball stick, and just his gangly legs were working against him on Tuesday. But we can't take him off. We don't have somebody to give Rutter a rest. So, if he's at the races, we win. If he's not at the races, we draw. And that's how it is.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the fact that Rutter was pushed so far on and was literally leaning against the centre back for so much of the game, there was no space for him to play. He wasn't dropping, where in other games he seems to have freedom in the park to kind of move around wherever he wants to. Whereas in this game, he must look like he was told stay on the last man, because he did. And he just wasn't as effective. So,
and that I think his name was Ballard, was a bit of a mountain as well. I thought their back three for Sunderland was really good.
They did a really good job.
Ballard. Yeah, they did.
Joe,
and the wing backs as well were good. Huggins.
This is where I feel sorry. I feel so sorry for Daniel Farke in this situation, because, and I know people are saying stop talking about last season, so I won't talk about last season. In every other season, we would still be in the top two.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I think it's a freak year. I mean, the Premier League is so much weaker this year than it was last year with the teams that have gone up into it. You're looking at, if we were in Premier League like this year, you'd probably be safe easily enough. The teams are so poor down the bottom, and the Championship is so stacked this year. And then I think I saw somebody else on Twitter saying next year it's just going to flip on its head. It's going to be a crap Championship and a really good Premier League. So, if we do manage to not go up, you could have a clear run at it next year, but you don't want that. But I feel sorry for Daniel Farke in this situation, because we are going to lose more games this season. We're not going to go unbeaten. We're not going to just draw and win games. We're going to lose 2 or 3 more games this year minimum. So we've got to, you've got to hope that Leicester and Ipswich lose more and drop more. And I still think looking at the table at the end of January is when we're going to have a proper picture for this, because I think the African combination is going to hurt them. I really, really do. Especially if you look at scoring goals from the last couple of weeks. They're gone for 10 matches. They're gone.
Do you think?
Can we just comment on how terrible? I don't like to blame things on refs, but can we just comment on how terrible that ref was on Tuesday? There was no protection for any Leeds player. And Archie Gray, it was a yellow card challenge. I'm not disputing that. Like his late tackle on Clark, he had him on toast. That's fine. You just take that and that's fine. But they committed 4 or 5 of the exact same tackles on our players, and nobody was getting penalised, and he was waving things on. And then Archie Gray did 2 tackles, and the second one was a yellow card one for definite, even without the first. But he just got it out straight away. And you look back up the other end of the pitch, and you're like, well, hang on, fair's fair. I don't mind Archie getting a yellow as long as your players are getting yellows. So the quality of the refereeing is so poor. It's just absolutely shocking.
There was some knocking tackles early on that game.
It was. Yeah, how if that is in the Premier League, that's a red card. Like I don't even.
All foot down, you're gone. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand how nobody even looks at these things. And just quickly to go back to the point about the Premier League being so poor, this is why I think Everton should just shut up and take their point deduction now, because they're not going down. Whereas if they push and go next year, there's the potential that us, Southampton and Leicester are all back fired up in the Premier League with decent ownerships willing to not let them go down again next year. So just take your medicine, shut up, and quit moaning. It's just my little Everton rant.
No, I mean Everton are fine, man. Everton without their 10-point deduction would be like, I swear,
above
like
Chelsea.
Yeah,
above Chelsea.
Yeah. CR821 says, chins up, we will be sound. I hope you're right, mate, and I hope that starts tomorrow. Do you think my prediction of top 2 by January the 1st is still on?
I think by the end of January, maybe.
That's what I meant. That's what I'll say. I meant
kick it out a few weeks, maybe.
Yeah. We'll see. I'm worried about my tweets, I've had so many tweets bookmarked. I'm going to get it come the end of the season if we don't go up, but that's part of it, innit?
I can't wait for January when you're saying 49ers out because we've not spent any money and it's the 3rd of January and you're like kicking off and saying, get these Yanks out of here, blah, blah.
This will be the conversation where I'm saying, Joe, they told you they're only going to loan players. They said it to you. They said it out straight. They told you they're only loaning players and you're giving out to only loaning players. Yeah, that's what happened.
No, just somewhere I believe I was warranted in my meltdowns. To be honest, I believe I was warranted in my meltdowns.
Do you still think that now, though?
No, I like them now. Them now. Yeah.
So even though they said be patient, be calm, you still think you were warranted to say all of that and to have all of that negative chat.
Yes,
because I remember watching a stream and you were like kicking off majorly about how did they not know about these contracts and this, that, and the other.
No, but I still believe they did.
Shareholders don't have the power.
No,
they can see decisions. No, I'm not saying they didn't know. No. I'm not saying they didn't know, but I'm saying shareholders. I'm saying shareholders have different powers with different shares, so they could just sit there. I know it. I work in a business where there's shareholders.
But this is football, man. This isn't whatever.
Yeah, but it's a business. It's not football. It's a business. It's a business for them first and foremost. So just sit down, and remember in January when you're there fuming, losing the gingerness. And you have to then eat your own words when we're top of the table. Because of the loans that we've got in January.
This is your pre-January pep talk, Joe. This is to protect you, Joe. That's all this is to protect you. That's all this is.
This will be the last you see of Evie on this show.
I can't wait till Evie launches her own show.
No, there's a violation, Sam. Yeah, listen, it is what it is. Now, fair enough. I've taken my medicine. I've heard.
Oh, sorry, Joe. I just need to say, it's all love. It's all love.
Stop. Who does that? Who always says that? It's all love, though, man. Don't worry about it. It is what it is. I love that. Right, okay. Also, folks, before you go anywhere, I've just put a redirect over to my good friend Judge Mo's channel, the Mo Gender channel. So please go on over there straight after this, where we'll be talking some Premier League ahead of the weekend. Damar says she has finished you. No way. She's on fire. It is what it is. It's good, isn't it? It's good. It's about time I got put in my place, I guess. Anyway, I think we'll leave it there. Listen, go check out Leeds United The View. His title is in, sorry, not his title. His channel is actually in the title. So just click it, go on over, subscribe, loads of content over there. And you'll be seeing Evie a lot more as well on this channel as well. It's just when we can, get things off. So, great to see. Thank you very much. And I'll see you tomorrow from 12:20 because I'm doing the Old Farm Derby first and then the watch along. So join me then. See you later, folks. Bye-bye now. Merry Christmas.